About a year ago, Keir Starmer's Labour Party won the general election by a massive landslide in the UK. People were hopeful after 14 really unimpressive years under the Conservatives who have moved this country to the left on every measure possible from the Labour Party government before them. Uh, yeah, there was a lot of hope, and a year later, Keir Starmer is polling. I don't know where exactly, but he's gotten to the point. This is Keir Starmer's amazing achievement. Is Nigel Farage is now, according to polls, the person who would be prime minister if there was an election held today. This is a guy who couldn't be elected to parliament in his first seven attempts, and now looks like he could be prime minister. Well, Keir Starmer has taken a page out of the book of every failed socialist leader in Europe, which is when your socialism fails, blame the Jews. We see how fantastically it works for Pedro Martinez in Spain. We saw how it worked for well, it actually the person who was most successful in that was a socialist in Germany in the previous century. But yeah, Keir Starmer is planning to, according to some reports, recognize a Palestinian state. Why is he planning to do it and not doing it? Well, Donald Trump is in the UK right now. You don't want to piss him off, so he's waiting until he's gonna leave, and then Pedro Sanchez. Yes, sorry, Deborah. I get this is not the first time I've done that. I'm sure somebody can accuse me of racism over this, but yeah. Got the wrong name of the prime minister. Keir Starmer is the right name, I think, with the UK's prime minister. And yeah, uh, this is uh, this is how maybe he thinks he will get back in the good graces of the public, whose country he managed to drive further into the ground than his conservative predecessors. Welcome to the reality show. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus and Michael Kaufman. Michael, you spend half your time in Israel, half your time in the US. You fly over us here. I don't know how much time you spend here. Does Keir Starmer's leadership inspire you to maybe consider a move to the UK?
I actually avoiding it. I have a company that I'm on the board of there, and I have not had, since his anti-Semitism started and his quote defense of quote Palestine unquote started. I actually have told the company I'm not going to be there in person. I come with an American passport, of course. I have a dual passport. I have an Israeli passport as well, but I'm not going to do it. I don't need to be in countries like this. It is remarkable to me. It's not just Starmer, of course. You've got Macron, who's a complete failure as well. Pretty much every failing government on the West is blaming the Jews and trumping up anti-Semitism to detract from the fact that they're failing. And no pun intended on trumping. Uh, we can talk about how this is actually going to come to pass, this so-called Palestinian state, and what Israel is doing about it. But it is a despicable, there's no other word for it. It is absolutely despicable that any of these countries are supporting the Islamic militants, which is what Hamas is and what the Palestinian Authority is. And essentially, the two leading governmental groups for the quote Palestinians unquote are both Islamic militant groups. And what the world doesn't need another one of is another Islamic militant country.
Daniel.
So, I mean, first, the failure of the Labour government. I mean, you said Nigel Farage might be the prime minister, but we are talking about in the recent polls him being like 10 points ahead of Labour. Only when was the election? Last year, only a year after election. So that the trajectory is terrible for Starmer, and I think it speaks to the way he's governing. Now, when it comes to sort of this recognition of the Palestinian state, it was said that many of the leaders of countries are basically just using the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to refocus on somebody else because every country is dealing with some major issues. In France, you have the fact that you still kind of don't have a government and you haven't had one, or you had governments falling left and right. So Macron needs a distraction. Starmer, of course, is losing the popularity. So he, of course, would benefit from a distraction. And they're using this because, again, this is not helping Palestinians in any way. And again, that's assuming you even want to help Palestinians. But this is a terrible thing. I mean, again, recognizing the Palestinian state doesn't really mean anything. Like, nothing will realistically change. But what it does mean is it's another sort of like hammer they can use against Israel. But what it means on the ground is if, let's say, you have more sanctions against Judea and Samaria, well, of course, you'll be targeting businesses that are employing Palestinians, and we've seen that in the past that a lot of businesses had to either move out of Judea and Samaria on shutdown, and what it actually resulted in is firing of Palestinians. Similarly to October 7th, right? You had tens of thousands of Gazans going into Israel every single day because, as with any dictatorship, and I do not mean sort of underdeveloped country, I mean specifically dictatorships, there's usually not a lot of work there. So they have to go into
Well,
developed
there's a lot of
countries.
terrorist positions available. They don't have a very long duration of contract.
Well, but even that's a strain on government's budget since then you
That's
have to
true.
pay the families. So yeah, overall, it's just it's a distraction. I mean, the fact that you have the UN General Assembly, and pretty much if you look at the news, you would think like Israel is the only thing on the agenda. And again, it's something.
You mentioned how badly he's doing in the polls, and yeah, incumbents usually do badly. In the U.S. as well. The president's party often doesn't do as well in the midterms as it did in the previous election. Here, when you have the incumbent party, and there's by-elections in different places where, for whatever reason, the in different constituencies where the MP. Had to step down or died. The ruling party usually doesn't do well. But yeah, this is next level. He won again by a massive, massive landslide and would today lose by a massive landslide. So impressive in a way, but yeah, this is he's found a solution. I also agree in a sense that recognizing a Palestinian state won't do much, but it should, in the sense that Israel should react to this as it keeps threatening to react. And we talked, I think, a few months ago about how some scholars here said that if the UK recognizes a Palestinian state now, it's actually a violation of international law because there are no actual government institutions and so on. And I don't like the idea of using international law when you feel like it because the whole thing is bullshit. And let's not use it to our advantage, so to speak, except if you actually can cause trouble legally for the prime minister, go ahead. But I wouldn't use that as an argument for why not to do it. Um, but yeah, in terms of there being institutions, we talked, Michael, you and I talked last weekend about Israeli President Herzog's visit to the UK. But before that, Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority, was here, was welcomed much more nicely, of course, than Herzog, as you would expect. Israel keeps threatening, we're going to annex a bit of the West Bank, we're going to annex bits of Gaza, and so on. Yes, actually, yesterday we talked about the danger of different Arab countries, and I mentioned Jordan as a threat that Israel should pay attention to. Today there was a terrorist attack that of somebody who came in from Jordan and murdered two Israelis.
Someone who came in on the humanitarian
Yeah,
truck.
a driver of a humanitarian truck came in, murdered two Israelis. Uh, Jordan is a big issue, which we will talk about at some other time. But yeah, Israel can start acting. Do it bit by bit. Every country that recognizes a Palestinian state, you take another chunk and annex it. Again, when Israel annexes things, it's there to stay. no matter how much people dislike it. Michael.
Yeah, unfortunately, Netanyahu has never stood up for any of the principles around anything. Um, as much as I'm pro-Israel and I'm extraordinary pro-Israel, I think he's a terrible, terrible. I wouldn't even call him a leader. I think he's frankly a kind of wishy-washy diplomat that wants to stay almost neutral. Gaza would have been done in 6 months, or maybe look, Gaza would have been done 3 months after Trump was elected. It would be done already if he was a real leader. And we would stop talking about annexing the West Bank when there are Jews being killed right and left there, and there's terrorist attack originally. We would just do it. Um, it is inconceivable to me what his end goal is beyond just prolonging his absence from court and all the other crap that's going after him. He doesn't stand on any philosophy or any basis, and that's one of the problems with the Israeli position is they don't. There's no basis. In fact, there was a basis with Hezbollah. There is no basis with the Houthis. There was a semi-basis with Iran, uh, and there's no basis in Gaza except to get more and more Israeli soldiers killed. There were 4 Israeli soldiers that were blown up today in Rafah uh, for no good. Their Jeep ran over an improvised explosive device, an IED. What's the point? You go in there and you bomb the crap out of these people until all the exploded ordnance is done, and you stop with your apologists with civilian casualties. The fact that a humanitarian truck driver today killed 2 Israelis is so despicable that when it happens on the other side by mistake, and it's always by mistake, there's screaming and condemnation and all this crap that goes around. And there's nothing today. 2 good Israelis is dead. Um, Israel needs to stop thinking that if it does something, people are going to like it. The only thing they're going to like is strength. It's much better to be feared than loved. Now, many of the countries sort of fear them. And Israel has done remarkably well in a lot of venues. It's remarkable. The economy has stayed up. The stock market has stayed up, even after Netanyahu's absurd Sparta comment. And it has nothing to do with Netanyahu why the stock market's up. This is all Israeli innovation and guts and risk tolerance and so on. It is a problem of leadership and a lack of clarity. And for all this crap about getting the hostages back and defeating Hamas, when you have dead soldiers every day, you're not doing it. You're slow walking it. And what happens when you slow walk in a war? You end up with dead people.
Before I go to Daniel, I want to pick up on the absurd Sparta comment because to me, Netanyahu, this was one of his finest. Now, again, generally he speaks better than he acts, but I like that. I because the thing with the Sparta comment is he recognizes the fact that if Israel does what needs to be done, ironically, since he's the one who could do it and chooses not to fully do it, then the countries who are now already placing sanctions, threatening sanctions, are going to do more of that. And we're basically going to have to, if we have to go it alone. And even said something like, I'm pro free markets, but, so it saddens me to say this, but we're going to have to get used to it. So yeah, why didn't you like it?
As long as just a quick response, as long as Trump is in the White House, their most important trading partner, the U.S., is not going to be doing any of this. The big problem is if we get a Democrat. Look, the big problem for the U.S. and the world with the current U.S. Democratic Party, which is mostly a left-wing, communistic, Islamist, progressive party of a bunch of idiot fruitcakes who are applauding murders of political spokespeople and even apolitical spokespeople, where the world is in trouble. But right now, with Donald Trump in the White House, for all of Trump's problems and issues and lack of consistency, Israel has to supply through the U.S. And by the way, folks, anybody who believes that Israel isn't going to have venues to get its weapons systems over to countries that really want them, whatever the cover political story is. They'll go through the US, they'll go through whatever country they need to go through and get shipped there, and Israel will get paid.
I hope you're right, but look, it is good to be able to trade with other countries other than the US.
I agree, but you can't trade with your enemies. And you can't be beholden to them because you can't make policy based on one day they wake up and say, I love this terrorist who wants to annihilate you, but I'm going to keep trading with you. That doesn't work.
Absolutely. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, sorry, Razi, hope this does not offend you, but his name is Keir Stalin. Uh, doesn't offend me. I don't know why it would offend me. But I disagree. Stalin was principled. He was evil. He had evil principles, but Starmer, has no principles. He's not committed to socialism. If he thought it would win the election, look, he's looking at the polls now and talking about how, he's going to reduce immigration. So that's whatever works in the polls, Starmer will say it. Daniel.
Oh man, we'll get another picture of him in a tank. I can't wait. Uh, I again, when it comes to, well, first on that comment about Keir Stalin. I mean, here is the thing. Like, if he was the UK equivalent of Stalin, if it was like Jeremy Corbyn, this wouldn't be like surprising, right? But he supposedly got rid of the anti-Semites out of the Labour Party, right? He got rid of the extreme communists or people like Jeremy
Including
Corbyn.
Corbyn himself. He kicked
Well, yeah.
Corbyn out of the party.
Well, yeah, yeah. And now did Jeremy Corbyn name his party yet, or is it still your party? Uh, so yeah, he is like doing everything that Jeremy Corbyn would have already had done so probably some time ago. But basically, he's doing the same thing. So again, what is the point of this labor? What does it even mean? Of course, as we always mention, any sort of standing up for the Palestinian state after October 7 means you are supportive of October 7 because again, these recognitions wouldn't have happened but not for October 7th. We mentioned the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. I'm wondering how the Ramallah Stock Exchange is doing these days. Probably not that well. Um, I mean, what were we talking? I think there was something else I wanted to bring up, and now I cannot think of that.
Well, you have some time to think of it while I thank Bonnie for the super chat and Jonathan, thank you for the super chat. Bonnie asked about what was the Sparta comment. WUB says that was Netanyahu claiming Israel should prepare for the possibility of being self-sufficient and strong like Sparta. That's a pretty accurate description of what he was saying there. And yeah, again, Netanyahu knows how to talk, but somebody else who knows how to talk in a way that pisses people off enough to claim that his words are genocide is Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who yesterday made was it yesterday? Was it the day before? Made some comment about something like Gaza being prime real estate or potentially prime real estate. I don't think right now, I'm not an investment advisor, but maybe right now is not the time to buy a property there. But yeah, he says, there's a business plan on Trump's desk, and this is one of those things that as the world, more and more countries side with the Palestinians, reward them for October 7th by recognizing that, again, recognizing a Palestinian state was something that all these countries have been talking about as a goal of peace negotiations for decades. Now they're doing it as a reward for October 7th. And one of the things that it makes sense, and I think this may have been something Smotrich said in the context of Gaza real estate, is that the Palestinians forced Israel into this war, which is expensive. The lives lost can never, there's no way you can repay that. The cost in money, you can absolutely claim that back, and that is one way to do it. I would very much, Michael, like to see the Israeli government considering that as, start doing it, at least with parts, even if they're going to continue this, we're going to operate here, we're going to move the population there. There are already parts that you can say, okay, this is done. We're now clearing this out, and this is now, and I don't know, do something to make sure that nobody from the rest of Gaza can go there. Thoughts?
Look, Israel's done that in Syria. And quietly, and they kept their mouth shut, which was beautiful. And they basically built, I don't know all of the details, but they built quite a nice buffer zone in Syria. And it's an extension of the Golan Heights, which is great because, anybody who thinks that the Golan Heights might ever be reverted back to a country the size of Syria, and I wouldn't even call it a country, it's a total disaster, it's a failure. Um, they can do this. They just, again, Netanyahu, it's almost like the wind is blowing, whatever way the wind is blowing. The other thing is that there are still tax revenues that are collected by Israel that are shuttled to the PA, to the Palestinian Authority. I believe a lot of them have been held up. Obviously, they're much lower than they used to be because the workers from Gaza, there are no more workers from Gaza. So one of the nice things Hamas did was eliminate, I think it was more than tens of thousands. I think it was 100,000 or more jobs in Israel. I mean, there used to be a lot of people from Gaza crossing over through the border crossings every day and coming to work in Israel because Israel has some employment openings that are not terrorist openings and don't have to deal with tunnel digging and fitting and so on. And I'm not just being facetious. This is the crap that the West believes that Gaza's just like the rest of us, except. And it's not an except. Gaza is nothing like the rest of us. Hamas is nothing like the rest of us. There is no question that Israel should be recouping the costs. And somebody at some point is going to have to pay for all this stuff. It's going to come on to the mostly Tel Avivians because they are the highest earners across Israel, are going to get super taxed. It's remarkable that the shekel has gained about 20% on the dollar. It is remarkable, I mean, 15% at least on the dollar. It was close to 4 shekels per dollar. It's now 3.34 or something like that. It's remarkable, but that isn't going to continue. And we're going to have to pay the piper for all this. And the we is the people creating value in the country. The other thing that I do want to bring up along these economic lines is that the only countries that are successful ever are the ones that have a reasonable economy. Now, sometimes that economy is derived from drilling for oil. And that's not people working, and that's not innovative, and it's not creative, but that's life, right? But other countries that don't have a lot of resources have to build economies because the only way for people to flourish is to have normal employment and to create things of value and trade them or sell them, which is another form of trading. There's this joke of a Palestinian state has nothing like this. Forget, even if they had a reasonable government, there's nowhere close to a reasonable government. But what's the economic plan? The economic plan was destroyed in 2006 when the Palestinians took over Gaza Strip and destroyed all of the Israeli farms and all of the indoor farms and flower beds and everything just to say we're not using Israeli. There is no interest in these countries to create anything of modern value or worth trading. And this is a fundamental problem going down. It's one of the reasons that these weak Western countries are so despicable, because this pretension that you can simply say we'll recognize a Palestinian state and the threat to kick Israel out of the UN, like that would be great if Israel left it. It's absolutely a terrible joke, and it contravenes reality.
Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, sorry, I'm confused. Where is Palestine? It's not on any maps, ancient or current. First of all, PC, this is your second super chat with an apology. You know this money goes towards the Zionist propaganda on this channel. You shouldn't apologize. You should be proud of that. And Paul says, I'm sure some country needs help planning, designing, and constructing tunnels for underground trains. Yes, although, underground trains are actually, productive. It's something that, helps human life. I don't know if they can do that, but if there is such a country, it's Libya. We can send them there. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, a few things to comment on. First, about sort of the Palestine. Again, just because it wasn't doesn't mean it like cannot be. Like Israel, of course, before didn't exist and then it came into existence. So I don't like those like historical arguments of how do you base, and the region was referred to as Palestine, and take it for whatever it is, but it doesn't give any sort of legitimacy to the Palestinian cause. So first, I mean, generally the cost of this war, and even Michael alluded to it by sort of saying the currency is strong. Something that is, of course, forgot about is, the men and women who are going from their daily jobs and are instead going to the front, right? That's terrible for economic growth. That's terrible for production. Even the fact that the currency is strong, and I don't know by how much that is generally not the best sign, because oftentimes it means, well, it depends what the specific causes are for the increase in the value of shekel. But it could be that basically the economy is slowing down in certain areas, and that drives up the price of shekel. Um, of course, when you have more expensive shekel, it means less tourism, less competitiveness, less exports, which I guess goes into sort of Netanyahu's plan to turn Israel into Sparta. If you stop exporting, then you can have stronger currency. Now, just to go a little bit back to Keir Starmer, I mean, even this recognition, he was already blackmailing Israel before, right? He was saying something like, I will recognize the Palestinian state if Israel, yada yada. If Israel doesn't commit to a ceasefire, if Israel doesn't do this. So this was already coming, and it was already evil back then, right? Like the idea that you would threaten, basically surrender, or we give more power to your enemies. It feels like Razi wants to jump in, but I'll throw one more thing. I've seen a recent article that came out, which again goes to the delusion people have about the state of Israel. Some group came out with like top 100 most influential people in 2025, and they had Netanyahu at place 3, and they had Smotrich at place 4.
Who was this?
I'll look it
Was
up.
this some random, was it like Time Magazine level, or was it some random people who wanted to say, look how, words are genocide and
It was probably
whatnot?
something a bit more random, because they had like they had like the heads of the religious Zionism and Shas at like place 40 uh
What's in the world?
in the world. Yeah, like the number one was like this CEO.
All right. Yeah, I don't buy that. But yeah, the idea that I think we talked about it at the time, but that Israel has been fighting this war and will now stop it and let the savages get away with it while they're still, while Hamas is still fighting and while they're still holding hostages, because if they don't, Keir Starmer will pretend that there is such a thing as a Palestinian state. That this is really, there are people in this country who don't understand that Britain is not the British Empire anymore, and it doesn't actually matter if Keir Starmer recognizes Palestine with Netanya as its capital. He can say it. It doesn't make it true. Um, yeah, Chandler says in response to PC, saying sorry? What are you, Canadian? Yeah, the only people who should say sorry are not Canadians, but people who don't answer their texts after 2 weeks. Chandler, check your WhatsApp. Uh, yeah, another thing, Michael, I saw this from Spain. Spain's prime minister said, was it the prime minister said now that Spain won't participate in the World Cup? This is bigger than even Eurovision for people in Spain. Won't participate in the football or soccer World Cup if Israel qualifies. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So that's not going to be an issue. But that is amazing. I'm wondering how Spanish football fans, who I'm sure are happy to not to withdraw from the Eurovision for a year, would react if yeah. Robert says in the chat, World Cup is everything to Spain. Yeah, especially I mean this is a failed country, and they're good at football. So for them, if they have this one thing that it's once every 4 years and they're going to withdraw. I'd love to see that happen. I actually think Israel's football team is the best that I've seen in my lifetime, but not good enough, especially not with the group that they have to actually qualify. Michael.
Yeah, look, I go back. I'm not a great being American. I'm better with American football than I am with real football. But I think the point you make is very important that whether Britain, France, Canada, Australia, and a few of the other backwards, fecklessly led, and I hate to use the word leader because these people are not leaders, um, countries support the idea, and it is only an idea of some Palestinian state, um, which should be called Jordan, frankly, because that's what most of them are. And there's plenty of room, and there's no reason they shouldn't be in Jordan and or Egypt. But that would be too simple, and it would also leave Israel with sort of a win, if you will. But it doesn't matter what they do. First of all, you've got the U.S., thankfully, right now under someone who has a bit of moral clarity about who is good and who is evil. Unlike the Barack Hussein Obama doctrine of moral relativism, which is if enough people blow themselves up, then they must have a good reason for doing it because surely people would never choose suicide over actually doing the hard work of forming a country. That's Barack Obama's view. If enough people blow themselves up, they must have a point, and we need to pay attention to them and reward them. So there's nothing new about this idea. It's luckily Trump doesn't believe that. He believes that if you're shouting death to America, death to Israel, that you probably mean it, especially if your country's charter actually has it written. And he obviously doesn't support this idea. In fact, quite the contrary. Uh, so it's not going to make any difference. As you said, the proper response to this, and this isn't propaganda or anything, folks. This is simple. Our bombs are bigger than yours. Our military is stronger than yours. And frankly, we're a lot smarter than you are, as we showed with the Hezbollah when we took out Hezbollah. Um, we're going to take over Judea and Samaria, and we are going to take over Gaza, and we are going to start to develop parts of it, and we're going to start to reap the economic benefits because frankly the beaches are some of the best in the Mediterranean. And that's the right response to all of this crap. And remember, possession is 9/10 of the law. Israel has shot itself in the foot over and over again by even calling its own cities. They continue to call them settlements. This is bad English. This is a bad message to people. These are not settlements. These are cities. These are well established with functioning, real civilian infrastructure, sans terror tunnels. They don't have terror tunnels in these cities. And that's what Israel needs to do. And Trump is going to back them. Now, Israel has a very short window because you never know what's going to happen in the next election. And frankly, with the way things are going in America, an attempted Trump assassination will occur again. And Israel needs to wake up. And they haven't woken up for 2 years. And they keep plodding along. And it is really, really shocking.
There's some stuff in the chat, Daniel, that I want to quickly go to. Somebody says most Australians support Palestine. That's why our Prime Minister Anthony Albanese recognized Palestine. I thought that was because of his beautiful last name and association that comes with it. Robert says Starmer won't be prime minister much longer. I don't know about that. I know people think that's a possibility. If he's not the prime minister, it's not that there's going to be a general election. It's that his party is going to get rid of him and replace him with, could be Diane Abbott. So let's hold off on celebrating that. Somebody says the UK government does not speak on behalf of us Brits. We showed this on the 13th with the Unite the Kingdom rally. We Brits stand with Israel. Well, many people in this country stand with Israel, but no, that's not how it works. Yes, he does speak for the country because he was elected. That's how it works. He was elected with a massive majority, and he is speaking for the country. The fact that many people took to the streets does not mean that they are. And again, if you look at the numbers, different numbers are out there about how many people were actually there. But in any case, it's enough to win a couple of constituencies. Now, look again. The polls show that if the election was held today, reform would probably win, which I went on my whole rant yesterday about how depressing that is because reform is actually the other side of the same coin. And the conservatives, for the first time in a long time, have a semi-reasonable person at the helm and are nowhere near power, according to the polls. That is the scariest thing here. But yeah, bottom line, the person the country elected speaks for the country, whether you like them or not. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to ask you how many sides does a coin have since conservatives, labor, and reform are all same, the other side of the same coin. Well, also, I'd like to say, as a proud patriot of Slovakia, UEFA just acknowledged a championship that we won in '76 as Czechoslovakia. But of course, Slovakia was a federative state of Czechoslovakia, and it was finally recognized after 50 years. So thank you, you corrupt organization. Uh, Now, sort of going back, I mean, when it comes to this recognition of the Palestinian state, I remember, and this might have happened maybe even before the election of Trump, or maybe it happened right when Trump was elected, that the one of the reasons why he got sort of some support is because a lot of pro-Palestinian people refused to vote for genocide Harris, as they called her. So if you look at some places in Dearborn, Michigan, especially, or some places in Michigan where you had a large Islamic population, you actually have the Green candidate winning in many of those places instead of the Democratic nominee. And some people were saying, some justification was that Democrats and Republicans are the same on the issue, and some were afterwards coping that, maybe since Trump is so chaotic, maybe Trump will like recognize the Palestinian state. And I wish, we should recognize a Palestinian state in Gaza. Israel should annex Judea and Samaria, all of it, and recognize the Palestinian state in Gaza, ship them all there. Although even that would be too nice for them. Now, when it comes to, we mentioned a little bit earlier about reclamation of Gaza, and I'm wondering to what extent, like, yeah, Israel should absolutely do so if possible, and it is doing it to some extent. I know parts of Gaza are already sort of, when you have the different families, already some of them renounce Hamas, and there is some kind of recognition of basically that Israel is leaving it alone. I mean, we've covered in the past that they've even provided weapons to some of those families. So this is happening to some extent. I wish it was happening more, although I'm not even sure to what extent it can happen right now, since you might still, I mean, clearing all of Gaza is gonna take a while, since you might have, unexploded devices everywhere. So you need military to clear it up. And I'm not sure to what extent you can do so when you still have Hamas fighting. I mean, the fact that we still that both Hamas is still fighting, and two, the fact that many people, I mean, we just had it yesterday, right? Another UN agency has came out with a genocide accusation, and we've talked about how they want Israel to make a ceasefire. Hamas is still there. Hamas is not going anywhere. Palestinians do not want a disarmed Hamas. Yet everybody is calling for a ceasefire. They want Hamas to stay in power. Like, there is no other way. What do these people expect, that even if Israel really goes through it, right, and pulls out, starts negotiating, I mean, Hamas would stay there.
Um, the mention of football started a whole thing in the chat. Deborah said, American football is not football, but armored rugby. And I say that as an American. I have to say, I keep hearing that. You hear that here all the time. Yeah, rugby players are real men. Somebody who values life. I prefer the American version where, you might not die from any contact. I just can't watch rugby. Yeah, it's too much. It's disgusting. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Maybe I already thanked you, but thank you again. And Michael, I have to bring up you said Jordan is the Palestinian state. They can go to Jordan, they can go to Egypt. I've said this before. I don't want them going to Jordan or Egypt, nowhere where they can invade from. That's why I like Libya. Libya, I'll tell my Libya story again. It's
Um,
it's far enough that they can't invade. It's close enough that Israel can bomb anything that festers there. Libya is, and it's a weak dictatorship that we can just tell them you are carving out a piece of your land for the Palestinians or else. And I will repeat my point about deportation and when it should happen, because right now it's a gift. It's a reward in any case, but this should be a reward for surrendering and releasing the hostages. Until then, Israel should keep pummeling them, should start pummeling them, and then keep pummeling them. Michael.
yeah, I don't, I don't. I completely agree with you. It would be better to have Libya, but certainly Gaza needs to be cleaned out. And people should, a couple of points. I mean, everyone should remember that there is a border between Egypt and Gaza. That border crossing has been closed since October 7th. Egypt has no interest at all in taking Gazans. They don't want to take care of the Palestinians. They absolutely will scream. Uh, they will scream about, can you hear me okay, you guys?
We can hear you. Your picture is frozen, but we can
Yeah.
still hear you.
Um, they absolutely, let me see if I can get that fixed, but they absolutely will pretend that they care about the Palestinians, except they don't accept them. And let's also please remember, and this is so important, that almost all of the building materials and the munitions, the clearly weapons that were illegal, came through the Egyptian border crossings, and they were tunnels under the Egyptian border, which allowed most of the munitions and the tunnel building materials to get into Gaza. Gaza doesn't have production facilities. They don't do anything in Gaza. There's a little bit of agriculture. There's a lot of UN-based training of little kids to hate Jews, and they're really good at building tunnels and firing missiles at Israel. So that is one point. The second point is that there's no reason that there needs to be a Palestinian state, whether they go to Libya or anywhere else. Let's not forget, Razi, that nobody in Egypt and Jordan liked the Jews. Okay, it's not like Jordan. It was a Jordanian terrorist who killed 2 Jews today. I mean, there's no fundamental difference between any of these Islamist countries, these Islamic militant countries, and what they are in Gaza. I agree with you. The fewer, the better, of course. But wherever we send them, terrific. Get them out of there and let Israel take it. You cannot survive. It'd be like it. It's funny because it's not funny. It's striking that the U.S. has declared drug cartels, which are essentially Mexicans on the Mexican-U.S. southern border, as terrorist organizations. And we are using our military in America to blow up people. And there was just another big cocaine bust today. We didn't blow them up. We actually busted them today. We have decided in America, Trump has decided, and frankly, all of the people that are doing a great job who care about American security and not letting drugs into America have decided these countries are on the border and that Mexicans are on the border and they are coming in here to poison Americans and make a lot of money and kill us. And we have no problem blowing the heck out of that. That's okay. And yet somehow Israel defending its border is not okay. And one problem I have, the major problem I have with Donald Trump is that he fails to continuously remind everyone publicly about exactly what's going on and why there is an absolute existential need to annihilate Hamas. My last point, Hamas is not going to stop fighting until they're dead. Really, this Western idea that life matters is so foreign to these Islamic terrorists. And I don't know what it is about history that we in the West have failed to learn about Islamic terrorists. They like going to Allah. They like blowing themselves up. They have said it publicly over and over again. They want the kids and the women to be blown up as well. They're not going to stop fighting. There's no reason to. Look at the carnage in Gaza. This is not a government that represents the people, and the PA is no better. This is a government that wants destruction, period. And that's what they are going to get, and that's what Israel has to feed them. This ridiculous notion at this point, 2 years in of a ceasefire, is complete and utter stupidity and suicidal to the country that is winning.
Yeah. The terrorist from today's attack, had he not been a terrorist, would have fed other terrorists. That was why he was let in to begin with. And Michael, there was a can of worms you casually opened in that last bit that I have to respond to, which is the war. Speaking of wars, and which ones are just and which ones are not. The war on drugs is definitely not a just war. Cocaine, people who want to take cocaine, it is their body and it should be their choice. And the government banning it means that they have to go to actual criminals rather than go to the shop down the street and buy it there. I'm giving you the chance for a rebuttal, but you're muted.
I thought it went over to Daniel.
Oh, it can go over to Daniel, but I
No,
also wanted
I
to.
talked a lot. I felt like
There was two things I wanted to quickly read here. Deborah says, a bit of good news. An immigration judge ordered Mahmoud Khalil to be deported to Syria. I saw that he was basically done, but I didn't catch the Syria part. Beautiful. And PC said this was earlier. Um, he asks Razi, who would you prefer to win next time? I'm guessing you mean the election and not something about football. I would vote for Kemi, of course. I think this is the easiest. The choice has been since I moved to this country. The conservatives actually have a good, by today's political standards, good leader. She doesn't speak well, so people don't listen to her. But yeah, she's good and the alternatives are bad, so it's an easy choice. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing about we really need to abolish, the war on concepts, like the war on drugs, the war on poverty, or even the war on terrorism or the war on terror. Like, name specific things we are going to war with, and we can actually judge if it's going well or not. And yeah, when it comes to sort of what makes the best way to fight even cartels is, of course, to legalize the things that they benefit from, right? Make immigration easier, make legalize drugs, and they have no power. One of the I really like when some stories or especially video games like take a concept and like take it somewhere. And in GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, where you're playing as criminals, you go to town and you see some people like trying to campaign for legalizing marijuana, and your character goes in and busts them up because he's like, you will shut down my business. I'm a criminal. I need this drug to stay illegal to actually profit from it, which I found as a pretty interesting thing to include in the game.
Of all your game references, the fact that you bring GTA, which is the only game I actually know of all the as a yeah, that I mean I agree with the argument, but Jesus Christ, that's the reference. Anyway, continue.
It helps makes the point. It's the helps people connect with it better. Um, so yeah, I mean, no, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, I think I wanted to bring up something. We keep like going somewhere else, and then oh, there is one thing that I really dislike about Keir Starmer. So we had an episode, I think, a few days ago, or maybe even last week. It was me, Marco, Richard, and Michael. And I think at some point Marcos said something like, the Keir Starmer, he probably won't do anything when Trump is coming, and he will wait with things after he leaves. And I was kind of like, okay, I dislike Keir Starmer as much as you do, but like saying that he wouldn't do something just because like Trump is in country right now seems a bit ridiculous even for him. And then he goes and does it. Like he actually is waiting for Trump to get out until he recognizes the Palestinian state. I mean, this is the leader of G7 nation. This is the leader of one of the most powerful countries in the world, and he's afraid like it's a school game or something. He's afraid of what the other guy is gonna say. I mean, it's ridiculous how, well, one, how the Western countries do have a different policy on good issues because Keir Starmer and Trump should be aligned on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and two, that he doesn't even like stand by his thing. If you really dislike Trump, or if you have problem with Trump's policy, but at least stand up to it. And which I don't agree with, he shouldn't. But at least have some balls and stand up to him, not like be afraid.
Can I challenge? I want to. I agree with you. I want to just change maybe the wording. I mean, the UK may be part of G7. I, After what the Houthis did to the shipping lanes and essentially the non-response, the acceptance of most of the European countries, I think all of them, of that we're going to have ships bombed, we're going to have people killed, and we're just going to double the shipping costs and pass along the cost to our citizens and allow this terrorist bullshit from one of the biggest pieces of crap nations in the country, Yemen, which is a failed state in and of itself. And then you have this group of Iran-backed excrement, shooting missiles at ships and threatening. And Europe did nothing. Zippo. Israel did something. The U.S. did something. And the U.S. only did it when Trump came in, by the way, of course, with Biden and whoever was the puppet strings with Biden. So I don't know why the UK or France are some of the most powerful nations anymore. I think they've ceded that. I think they don't stand for anything. They seem to be Muslim loving countries, or at least they're very happy to continue with the constant parades of crazies in their cities. I don't know how they think that they're going to create economic value with these people. The women are all wrapped up. The gays are shunned, if not physically harmed or murdered. And that's what seems to be happening. What people like to tell me, my European friends, it's not happening everywhere, which in and of itself, it's like saying I only have cancer in part of my brain. Like seriously? And I do think that we desperately need leaders. We also need of course, the public picks the leaders, and the public has shown, including in America, that we are really, really stupid. I mean, we keep electing Gavin Newsom to California, the largest deficit in the country. They have the highest tax rate and the largest deficit in the country. We have fires, we have no electricity, we run out of water in California. It's a third world country in a lot of places, and they keep electing the same people. It's all over the place. But I do challenge the notion that Europe matters anymore. I don't think it does.
Well, if I can jump, because it
Sure.
depends, because like America is like so like far ahead. Like my funniest joke about it is like America is so far ahead that it like started like when it comes to space race, it started competing with itself because there was nobody else to really even challenge it. So yeah, I mean, UK, I think by GDP is or if you take the European countries, right? Germany, UK, France, and Spain together, I think together they have EU itself has higher GDP than China. But one thing is it's so disunited. Second thing is it doesn't really want to do anything. That's the
Well,
biggest problem.
I'm more of a forward-looking statement. If you've decided that what you're going to have is a bunch of Islamist people praying 5 times a day and not build an economy and not focus on the principles of building a strong capitalist-based economy, then you're heading towards a disaster just based on demographics. I mean, we have the problem in Israel based on the demographics of the highly religious people. We have 15% of our population that don't work and receive benefits from the state and don't go to the IDF for the most part. It cannot, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And Europe is a disaster right now when it comes to a house divided against itself. America is 50-50. We're in deep trouble too, but luckily the 50% of there's a lot more than 50% of our people that are actually working and creating value. So we have an economic buffer in America, which is, I think, remarkable, and I hope it stands. But we are 50-50 on people that have lost their way, and on both sides of the spectrum. It's not as Anders likes to say, it's not left to right. It's right or wrong. And we have people that are on the wrong side of history, and mostly based on altruism. And until we get leaders that can look at a Houthi attack on a vessel and say this cannot stand, and it needs to be followed by obliteration. We just had two attacks from the Houthis today in Eilat, and we had another attack in Tel Aviv. And in fact, one of the drones that was sent into Eilat took out a entrance to a hotel. Why are we putting up with this? This is Israel, who has done a miserable job against the Houthis and likes to make a whole fuss, but hasn't done anything definitive. All my point is that until the world gets, as you call it, some balls and stands up for what's obviously right, we are headed into a very bad situation.
Well, when the conversation turned to drugs, I was going to say that, earlier today when I needed a break, I didn't take any drugs, but I watched the South Park episode Medicinal Fried Chicken, which is a great episode. And spoiler, at some point, Randy Marsh uh, gets cancer in his balls on purpose. So, anyway, go watch it. Uh, Michael, I know you have to go. Before you go, I do want to make the point. You talk about leaders, and the thing is, the leaders who go into politics are, it's not the best people. The best people actually go into business, and those are the leaders that you can hear at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference. Michael is one of them. Many others. You should go check it out. Objectivism.co.uk. Michael, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We do have a dearth of leaders. What's remarkable is the businessmen that lead all seem to feel guilty about their success and always feel like they have to give back as if they actually stole something. Even the language is wrong. Uh, and then that needs to change as well. Michael Kaufman, two F's in Kaufman on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and the businessmen who think they should feel guilty are not speaking at this conference. It is the guilt-free businessmen. Daniel,
Exactly.
parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is we don't need businessmen in politics. We need people who understand the purpose of government and can return it to its proper function and have moral clarity of what to do when it comes to foreign politics. So again, the government doesn't need like fixing, or it cannot be fixed by getting rid of a few departments or getting rid of few regulations. It needs a complete rehearsal of what it's actually meant to be. And that's why I recommend checking out the principled analysis of the US Constitution that is starting in 1 hour. That's for ARCUK Rear the Metal members and above, and also Inner Circle members on YouTube.
I'm Razi Ginsburg on X, objectivism.co.uk, The Irreplaceable Spark, October 25th, 26th. We're back tomorrow with the Daily Objective and the reality show. See you then.